What are Pakistan's priorities and challenges? Hello, I'm Anand Naidu and this is The Heat. As a new government in Pakistan settles in, we'll examine Islamabad's relations with the United States and China, the impact of CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, as well as its economic challenges. In just a few minutes, we'll hear from a panel of analysts. But first, my interview with Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Masood Khan. I began by asking him about the current state of relations between his country and the United States.
Towards the end of 2021 and in the beginning of 2022, there was a lot of uncertainty in our relations. Not that our relations suffered, but I mean, we were trying to figure out what kind of relationship we should have post-Afghanistan, post-withdrawal. And I think both sides worked hard and they developed consensus that we would maintain our relationship and we would recalibrate it. And while there would be emphasis on security issues, there would be equal or more emphasis on non-security issues like trade, investment, climate change, healthcare, technology, education. So this is a very important component of our relationship. And I think that our relations right now are very good. We have held many dialogue processes to promote our shared objectives. And we continue to work on an agenda that's mutually beneficial for the United States and Pakistan. So, and we are looking towards the future, into the future, with confidence.
So you say when you got here, it was a time to recalibrate the relationship with the United States. So what do you see as your primary goals in developing this relationship even further?
First, we worked on perceptions. I mean, we fought a very messy war together, the war on terror. And so Pakistan was seen either through the prism of war on terror or through Afghanistan or through India or China. So we kind of decided, both sides, and the United States said this publicly and privately, that they would not look at Pakistan through the prism of other countries, three countries that I have mentioned. That we would have a standalone relationship, we would have a bilateral relationship, we would try to make it as robust as possible. And we would use the space that is available to both the countries, given the geostrategic complexities in our region. And I think we've succeeded to a great extent.
Now, I want to talk about Pakistan's relationship with China, and of course you are very familiar with that relationship because you were ambassador to China from 2008 to 2012. China, of course, has very good relations and a close relationship with Pakistan, both a trade relationship, an economic relationship, as well as a diplomatic relationship. Your deputy prime minister, as well as who's the foreign minister, met with the Chinese foreign minister Wang Yi recently. It was part of the multi-round strategic dialogue. The two nations consider themselves, and I'm quoting the phrase here, as all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. How has that relationship with Beijing evolved over the past 70 years? I mean, that's how long it goes back.
There have been many vicissitudes in international politics, but we've been steadfast in our relationship, China and Pakistan. And our relationship goes back to the early 1960s. And since then, we've been developing defense cooperation. We've been developing economic ties between our two countries. And after CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, we deepened economic partnership between our two countries. We are satisfied with this relationship. It is all weather. It has not been buffeted up and down, left and right, because of international development. So this is a steady relationship. But at the same time, even if you have very steady relationship, you have to invest, you have to continue to invest in it. That's precisely what we're doing, because all relationships are backed by political will of the leadership and support of the people of the two countries. So I think that we were satisfied with the relationship that we have right now.
Yeah,
It proved to be productive.
Right.
But I want to add here, this would be your next question, but I think that people always speculate whether there's a tension in our relationship between China and the United States. And I always say very categorically, and I can substantiate it, that our relationship with China is not at the expense of our relations, our friendship with the United States of America.
Right, but the relationship with China, it's a very enduring one, isn't it? I mean, you use the phrase all weather. It is an unconditional relationship, isn't it?
No relationships are unconditional. As I said, that you have to nurture a relationship. Right. And we're nurturing that relationship as we are nurturing our relationship with the United States of America.
You mentioned CPEC, that's the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That's a $62 billion project. It's China's signature Belt and Road project in Pakistan right now. It is economically important, of course, for both countries, with Pakistan looking to establish itself in just a few years. By 2030, it wants to be a $1 trillion economy. So how significant is this particular project in terms of cooperation between the two countries?
It's very significant. You know, this practically started in 2015, and we've completed early harvest projects within the framework of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Initially, the amounts allocated for the project, these are multiple projects. This is not one project. Right. There are many projects. This was the initial money was devoted to infrastructure development, whether it was power generation, whether it was construction of roads or railroad or other links that we were planning to implement or planning to build. So, but then we realized that this CPEC, this project, this mega project, should also have an organic persona. So what we did was that both countries decided to invest in tourism, technology, also vocational training, agriculture, people-to-people exchanges, so that it's a holistic program, it's a holistic project. So I think that up to now, we have already disbursed about $25 billion. And by 2030, we would be able to complete the remaining projects. And since it is the flagship project of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, so I think that we have a reputational commitment, both sides, to this project so that it succeeds under all circumstances.
I want to talk now about China's broader role in the world right now and Pakistan's part in it. Of course, we live in a changing world. A lot of what was established after World War II is now evolving into something else. We're seeing the global south emerge on the world stage. China is playing a pivotal role in that. It is a champion of multilateralism, a champion of globalization. What are your thoughts on that and the role that China's playing?
China has emerged as a big nation. In fact, it's the second largest economy in the world, and their defense capabilities are also increasing exponentially. But when you talk about the international order, China is a participant in it, whether it is the United Nations, whether it is all the affiliated organizations of the United Nations based in Geneva and all around the world. Bilaterally also, I mean, United States and Pakistan, United States and China have very close ties. They're the most interdependent nations in the history of the world when it comes to trade or investment. So China has been a responsible actor in international politics. It has also been working with other major powers on climate change, arms control, the whole range of issues, global issues. And it is investing in global commons in collaboration with the United States and the Western Bloc as a whole. So, but there are, as you know, there are differences also, and I think that the right answer is that there should be a level playing field for everybody, for all the countries, so that they can grow together. They can avert wars and confrontation and opt for peace through dialogue and diplomacy. And I think that in the recent past, in the past two years, there was turbulence in the relations between China and the Western Bloc, but both sides have managed their relations responsibly, and they have resorted to dialogue, frequent dialogue processes. So we remain optimistic. I mean, as a developing country,
right,
we remain optimistic that these complementarities between the Western Bloc and China would strengthen in the times to come. And this would be beneficial for the developing countries as a whole, global south, as you call, including a country like Pakistan.
So, Ambassador, what do you see as the major economic challenges for Pakistan?
I would say that 2022 was a bad year for Pakistan, but we rode through that storm, and now our economy is stable. And the projections are that this year we will have GDP growth of 2.5%. Next year it should climb to 3%. Pakistan has a huge reservoir of human capital. We have a population of 240 million. We are the biggest West Asian country, demographically and also in terms of our potential. So we are investing in, or we are inviting investment in many sectors, key sectors, particularly IT, energy, technology, and extractive industry. We have some precious minerals which are needed for global supply chains and also for chips, semiconductors, and so on. So there's a huge potential, and we are becoming internationally integrated. There are many, there are thousands of freelancers. We are probably the third largest country of freelancers. So I think cumulatively we have a bright outlook and a bright future economically. We have completed one cycle of a program that we had with IMF, International Monetary Fund. It was called Standby Arrangement. It was completed, the last tranche was paid to Pakistan. And what I want to add is that right now we're in the process of negotiating another extended fund facility.
Right.
But beyond that, we are taking some steps domestically which are very important for economy. For instance, our tax reforms, streamlining the entire tax machinery, or we're investing heavily in energy projects, particularly renewables, and we're also privatizing some of the non-performing state-owned enterprises. So I think that this would have a good impact on our economy, and Pakistan, I remain confident, could become a tech hub for the region and for the world in the days and years to come.
Ambassador, Pakistan's Prime Minister is scheduled to visit China soon. What are the items that will be high up on the agenda when he's in Beijing?
We will build upon the relations that we already have, the foundations that we have worked on for years, for decades. And you alluded to the phrases that we use for Pakistan-China relations. I mean, all-weather friendship. We also say that it's deeper than oceans and higher than mountains or higher than Himalayas. But what I want to say is that there's poetry and there's prose. And the prose of the relationship is that we would strengthen our defense ties and deepen our economic cooperation and invest in cultural exchanges between the two countries. This is the agenda. This is the topmost agenda. We would also, I mean, usually when we are in China or Chinese friends are in Pakistan, we look at the global situation, also the regional peace and security, right, and the emerging scenarios, and how to coordinate our strategies bilaterally and internationally, especially in the multilateral fora.
Ambassador Khan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's continue the discussion now with our guests. Joining us here in Washington, D.C., Khurram Shahzad is a political analyst. From Beijing, Einar Tangen is a senior fellow at the Taihe Institute and chairman of Asia Narratives. And Zoon Ahmed Khan is a research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Welcome to all of you to the show. Khurram Shahzad, great to have you with us. Welcome to the show. As we heard the ambassador there tell us, Pakistan is making efforts to improve its economy. It is seeking more funding from the IMF. The country is hoping for GDP growth this year of 2.5%, hoping next year will be 2.6%. But it also has inflation running at 24% and has debt of $24 billion, much more than the foreign reserves that it currently has. So how do you see this going?
Sure. Thank you for having me. The Pakistan's biggest problem, if you look into the numbers, which Ambassador said himself, 260 million people, the overpopulation is eating everything. So that is the fundamental problem. The Washington is always propagating to Pakistan. They have to do something to control the population. And the most importantly, which IMF most recently asked Pakistan to decrease the gap between import and exports. So we have over $24 billion gap in Pakistan that is in 2023 alone. The imports has to be increased. The import has to be decreased and export has to be increased. But we have seen the decrease in the exports, and at the same time there is a decrease in the import as well. But the gap is getting wider and wider, and that is one of the biggest problems which IMF has been repeatedly telling Pakistan they have to control it. The third thing, which I agree with IMF, that subsidies across Pakistan on energy is killing the economy. IMF have said that they need to have the subsidy, which is fine, but it should be targeted subsidies. The people who are driving, for example, if you look into the petrol, gas, which we call it gas in Washington, the petrol in Pakistan, everybody is getting subsidies. And with the wording of IMF, they wanted to have targeted subsidies, like the people who are riding the bikes or people are riding very small motor vehicle, they should be getting the subsidized, but the people who are driving the luxury car, they should not be getting the subsidies. Similarly, we have seen the decrease in the export of textile, which was Pakistan's backbone at one time. Now that it is going into Bangladesh and other countries because they are having those advantage production policies. So that is one of the biggest challenge for industry. The energy cost is so high that they cannot sustain to have that industry in Pakistan. So all the production units are actually going out of the country. If the government policies are not helping the small businesses, the whole economy will collapse. So this is what we have seen in 2021, 2022, and 2023. IMF was repeatedly saying we need to bring more people into the tax bracket. But they were not able to do it, and that is where we see the government is actually increasing the taxes, which actually show the number. The tax collection is higher, but the tax bracket is not getting wider, which is one of the biggest problems.
Zoon, great to see you. No doubt Pakistan faces some formidable economic challenges, but what kind of boost is the effort to improve the economy getting from CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? I mean, there are several stages. The ambassador talked about that. Where is the project now, and what is the potential benefits that it brings, not just to Pakistan, but to China as well?
Thank you, Anand, firstly, for having me. I think the ambassador's interview did give, not only for the last 10 plus years that CPEC or the BRI was envisioned, but also overall decades of the trajectory that China and Pakistan's relationship have. In a nutshell, I mean, of course, like Khurram Shahzad also mentioned, some critical economic challenges that Pakistan has, including deindustrialization. These date as far back as the early 2000s. Back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, Pakistan was going through an economic crisis. And in 2015, when CPEC was announced initially, the first $46 billion were announced. They were announced to address those critical challenges that Pakistan's economy was facing, and the world was not willing to invest. So the first thing that CPEC did was improve Pakistan's energy capacity. We had energy infrastructure investment, transportation infrastructure, planning of special economic zones, and for the first time, the port of Gwadar, which again Pakistan had envisioned for decades, was actually being worked on. And in these years, we've seen, obviously, up until now, $26 billion of investment, over 236,000 jobs being created. We see collaboration from very hard infrastructure, which was phase one, towards the softer dimensions, which is education, technical and vocational education, academic collaboration, agricultural improvement, improving the yields. I mean, in very specific sectors that are broad, and even in terms of, Pakistan's aspirations to improve its export capacity, CPEC is playing the most critical role. So what I would say is that, phase two, which actually started back when now PM Shahbaz was the chief minister, Shahbaz, in 2017, 2018, the phase two had already started, where Pakistan was in the stage of attracting investors from China and other countries to utilize the improved capacity that CPEC had allowed. And of course, COVID-19, economic challenges, political uncertainties as well, the 2022 floods. But that said, today, the way CPEC has been envisioned and also can deliver is by improving Pakistan's attractiveness as an investment destination, improving key sectors that Pakistan sees as critical to improve, and for the region, for China too, the region matters. And this is something we can go into more detail later, but actually the extent to which Pakistan can serve as a source of connectivity for the region can be beneficial for the broader vision of a connected West or Eurasia.
Right. Einar, Tangen, not everybody is happy with this growing relationship between Pakistan and China. The United States recently imposed sanctions on 3 Chinese companies that provided ballistic missile technology to Pakistan. And this is how the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi responded to the U.S. action. Let's listen.
For some time, the United States has frequently imposed unilateral sanctions on China, abused Section 301 tariffs, and obsessively suppressed China's normal economic trade and technological activities, which represent the most typical form of hegemonic bullying in the world today.
So, Einar, what do you make of that?
Well, there's no secret that there's a geopolitical contest going on, and that the U.S. is firmly anchored in its belief that it is absolutely right. That's the essence of American exceptionalism. How it applies to Pakistan, obviously the U.S. would like to pry Pakistan away from China. I'm sure that they're saying that there are better ways to do things, but when it comes down to it, Pakistan relies on China. The latest tranche of emergency money came from China. In an odd kind of way, China is paying for the problems caused by Washington, especially the war against terror or in Afghanistan, etc. This had profound impact on the economy in Pakistan, and it's never really been addressed. The U.S. has not put money into revitalizing the economy, and some in Washington see it just as an opportunity to cause more strife in the region. For China, peace in the region is going to be anchored by trade, and it's the key to regional stability. So very, very different perspectives there. Obviously, you heard the ambassador trying to thread the needle very carefully between these great powers. China is unique, and it doesn't say you have to choose one way or the other. The U.S. generally says you're either with us or against us at the table or on the menu.
Khurram, Pakistan continues to face political instability, and that instability we've seen since the ouster of the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. How would you characterize the Pakistan political landscape right now?
Sure. The political landscape, like you mentioned, after Imran Khan, is getting very obvious that Imran Khan is one of the popular leader. Even though he was in jail, he had over 90 seats in the National Assembly, which was this has never happened in Pakistan, especially. So I think this is the time for Pakistan to understand that the people's power will prevail. No investor will go to Pakistan. There is no economic freedom. There is no economic prosperity if international investment is not going into the country. No one will go into the country if there is no political stability, if there is no economic stability, if the policies are randomly changing from one government to another government, the investor will never come to the country. So that is something they have to understand. The people, the policymaker, the establishment, the people who are controlling the economy and the affairs in Pakistan, they have to understand. Internationally, no one feel confident that they will go invest in the country and next government will come and they ban all the policy with the previous government. It has to revive. It has to somehow, they have to come back to the realization the world has changed. The people have changed. The technological advancement in the country is huge. Like Ambassador mentioned, the semiconductors and other artificial related intelligence. Pakistan is investing into that, but international investment cannot come to the country if political instability.
Okay, Zoon, as we heard, Pakistan also faces some very serious security challenges from within the country as well as from outside the country. China and Pakistan have said that they've committed to each other to deepen security cooperation on countering terrorism. Can Pakistan come to grips with the threats that it faces in the short term?
I think, Anand, that is a priority. It has been a priority for Pakistan and for China to provide maximum security, safety, stability for especially CPEC workers. And as I mentioned in my previous intervention, Pakistan was going through an economic crisis at the time the first phase was announced. But Pakistan was also recovering from a security crisis that had improved, but the perceptions hadn't changed. So that said, it was a moment where Pakistan really wanted to encourage Chinese investors, Chinese workers to build these projects that were critical for Pakistan to be relatively stable. So that said, it is a priority for Pakistan, for China. And we know that, the region has faced, both Einar and Khurram have mentioned, unprecedented challenges that have spillover effects. And China, Pakistan, and the region suffer from that. So yes, it's a priority.
All right. So, and we are going to have to leave it there. Time has caught up with us. Thanks to all of you for being with us. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C.